You are about to enjoy 100 amazing trick shots. Divided into 9 separate categories, they highlight the variety of shots performed by today's top players. Our first section concentrates on 12 tricks that appear totally impossible, fully justifying their title of mystery shots. The object of the Black Pearl is to somehow pot the completely trapped 8-ball. Perfect. From above, we can see how the black was literally prized out from the oyster of reds. At first glance, the 7-ball squash again looks unlikely to work. But even though the 8 is surrounded by yellows, a firm contact on the cue ball will see the black sail straight through the cluster to the middle pocket. Our third trick, the classic Moses shot, attempts to pot the 8-ball, which we can see hooked against the cushion, through a seemingly impenetrable sea of reds. Amazing! The barrier splits wide open and the black flies directly to the pocket. A slightly easier variation, though still on the same theme, is to set the balls up in this formation. Once again, the 8-ball safely finds the target, although this time there are only 6 reds blocking its path. In the overhead slow motion, notice how the black just sneaks in off the side jaw. Clearly, the 2 touching yellows in open sesame are totally obstructing the cue ball's route to its target, resting patiently in the jaws of the corner bag. The solution is ingenious. By swinging the white around 3 cushions, the cue will be dislodged just enough for the cue ball to jump the yellows cleanly and carry on to pot the black. The goal of our 6th trick shot, the setup, is fairly straightforward. All that has to be done, as we can now see in the overhead camera, is to pot the 2 lone reds in one shot and leave perfect position on the black. It works something like this. The 8 springs from its trap and bounces off 2 cushions before potting the red. The most important feature of this next trick shot, Bridge the Gap, is the 2-inch space left in the lozenge-shaped formation of balls shown here in close-up. Notice in slow motion how this gap allows time for the reds to roll clear of the spinning black. To pop the 8-ball in breakthrough is not an easy matter. As the camera zooms out, it becomes obvious there is no clear path to the corner pocket. As we have just seen, the answer lies in clipping the edge of the arc before the plant is made. Potting the awkward black from off the cushion is the objective of our next trick, Roadblock. The single red hindering the 8-ball's sight of pocket is cleverly nudged off the rail, as we can see here from the overhead. The black is completely imprisoned by 13 yellows in our 10th trick shot, Jailbreak. Although from this angle there doesn't appear to be any plausible way to free the ball, it can be done by adopting a hard stroke with plenty of follow-through. To prove it, watch this. In the running jump shot, the black has to negotiate a barricade of reds and a triangle after escaping from this tricky spot on the cushion. Can it be done? No problem. The edge of the triangle lifts the ball over the reds and into the pocket. The 12th and last of the mystery shots, the red guard, once again sees the black potted from nowhere. Whether we watch in slow motion like this, or now and again from overhead, the red guard still remains a mystery. By creating an obstacle on the table with a few cues, a whole new range of shots are possible. As most other tricks are over in the blinking of an eye, anything that can be done to slow them down often makes the final effect much more impressive. Sit back and enjoy 12 great tricks we call railroad shots. Potting the colours in numerical order is the task set in our next trick, collision course. Notice how Jason applies slightly more side spin each time, allowing the balls to all bounce off 3 cushions without colliding. With the help of the cue butts, all 7 can then safely find the corner pocket. The figure of 8 shot highlights a popular way of using the cues as a runway. The cue ball can be made to swing around the pocket lining, roll back down the cues, and finally pot the black. Once more in close-up. Although still using the cues, blackout, where all 3 balls must be potted, is much harder to perform. The first 2 blacks are deflected into the pockets, leaving the white to make the long journey to the last 8 ball. If the previous feat proves a little too difficult, try setting it up with an extra white to guide the second black home, as we can now see from above. You'll find it makes the shot very much easier indeed. As before, the cue ball travels around the cushions and down the cues to complete the trick. The white finds its usual path blocked in our 17th trick shot, 9 on the line. By firing the cue ball off the normal angles, it will mount the ramp as usual and slowly roll down to topple the stripe. With any luck, both balls should end up in the center pocket. An attractive way to sink the 1, 2 and 3 can be accomplished in the boomerang shot. Watch how the yellow cannons off the red, throwing it out wide to return along the cues and follow the blue 2 ball into the pocket. This shot is actually much harder than it looks. Try it. For those who want something slightly simpler, there's always the original railroad shot. Just pot the first black, sending the white ball up and down the cues to pot the second in the same pocket. Combining a few of the skills we have already seen, the objective of this next trick, catch up, is to pot both red balls. Even though one ball is balancing on the cue, the shot can be made something like this. The cue ball has to catch the runaway red to pot it. The black ball may be trapped in on the right track, but if you follow the professional's example, a really impressive trick shot can still be made. Notice from above how a second 8 ball is also potted in the far center pocket. 5 balls potted in sequence makes, out for the count, one of the most ingenious trick shots ever devised. Watch this. The 1 is kicked into the center pocket. The blue 2 flies to the corner, leaving the orange 5 to finish the job. After cannoning the 4 ball, the white rolls on ahead to pop the red 3 and clear the path for the last 2 colors. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 potted in order. Truly amazing. The 8 in 1 is another classic. It creates the incredible spectacle of a perfect total clearance in a single shot. Pretty impressive, isn't it? This trick shot is definitely worth another look from the overhead camera. Believe it or not, our last railroad shot, the railroad shunt, is the hardest trick of all to play. Getting all the 3 numbered balls to fall in the center pocket, as you are about to witness, is incredibly difficult. Not all tricks are just about setting the balls up in the right place. Some, as we shall now see, rely heavily on the actual ability of the player performing the shot. Most of the 15 featured in this next section are extremely difficult indeed, so it's no surprise to learn they are titled skill shots. Our 25th trick shot, On the Run, doesn't require any setting up at all. Simply try to pop the red ball while it's still moving. Like this. In slow motion, we can see how the white catches up at the black spot, cannoning both balls into the corner pockets. The formation of the balls looks easy in Crossroads, but potting the 4 reds in one shot actually offers little margin for error. From this angle, notice how the last yellow travels almost 4 lengths of the table to complete the trick. Toppling the golf peg from between the balls in Teed Off is extremely difficult. Let's watch from overhead. It's almost too fast to notice, but if we watch again in slow motion, we can see that the white jumps back slightly before surging forward to the tee. The aim of the ricochet is to pot the 8 ball after skittling the reds, something like this. All 5 reds should be cannoned out into the center of the table as the cue ball spins its way down the channel to the black. Along the same theme as Crossroads, the 5-pocket scramble goes one step further and pots the black as well as the 4 reds. You need to play with a lot of screw and side to get the white to fizz back like this. Speed is of the essence in our next trick shot, the machine gun. Trying to pot 4 balls before the black in the same pocket like this requires lightning-quick reflexes. Watch in close-up as Jason fires in the reds without pausing at all. And again, from overhead. If attempting to play the trick shots we've seen so far gives you a nasty headache, the backflip is the perfect shot for you. It is possible to spring an aspirin into a glass of water, like this, by striking the cue ball hard at the cushion, seen here from above. It's definitely worth watching again in slow motion. Normally, from the position found here in the squeeze, it would be impossible to pot the 8-ball. By pushing through the white with plenty of right-hand side, however, incredibly the black squirts straight along the cushion to the pocket. Watch again in slow motion. Trick shot 30. 3 once again pots 3 balls in numbered order. We call it frozen out, and it works something like this. The 1 ball clips off into the corner, sending a white along the cushion to pot the blue 2 in the opposite pocket. This just leaves the red 3 to complete a very impressive trick. Our next 4 shots highlight some great 2-player tricks, starting with the classic double bubble. Brilliant! The 2 cue balls meet exactly in the center before bouncing back to the corner pockets. One player only needs to apply side spin in the zigzag to ensure the whites don't collide on the bays. A sound knowledge of the angles also helps to pop the reds off 2 cushions. Continuing in the style seen in double bubble earlier, the next trick shot is even harder. Potting the whites like this truly is a skill shot. A very fine touch is required to nail this next trick, the time bank. Watch as Jason deftly double kisses the yellow into the center. The initial cut is so thin, the yellow hardly moves at all before the white returns from the cushion to finish the job. A solid understanding of the backspin stroke is useful when attempting to pop the 3 reds and the black in screwball. Drawing the white backwards like this ensures the 8-ball is potted cleanly as the reds are dispatched to the far corners. The last of our skill shots, the delayed ricochet, takes the variation we saw earlier a stage further. By spinning the striped ball on the paper, the professional is still able to pop the black. In close-up, notice how the side applied to the 10 allows it to really fizz down the cushion. The triangle designed to rack the 15 balls on a pool table can be used in a variety of ways to create some really ingenious tricks. Whether it's potting 6 balls in numbered order or sinking a completely trapped yellow, you'll find out how it's done in this 4th chapter simply called Triangle Shots. Knocking in the whole line of balls that feature in our 40th trick shot, Follow the Leader, would normally be impossible. As we have just seen, however, by using the corner of the triangle, all 5 colors can be potted smoothly in one pocket before the cue ball finally rebounds to sink the 6th. Perfect. If you're wondering how the yellow can be potted in our next trick, the triangle trap, watch this. The white forces the triangle into the pocket, just allowing the yellow to squeeze through the gap. Notice, as we watch the shot again, quite a firm stroke is needed to send the ball down. You've got to really know the angles to play this triangle trick, rack 'em up. Watch how Jason sends the red ball around 3 cushions before squeezing the white out to complete the rack. To get the triangle to fall perfectly, like this, you'll probably need to use a trace of side spin to help the ball shoot around the cushions before finally reaching the pack. Moving on to a slightly harder variation of an earlier trick, the object of Inside Out is not only to pop the hooked black, but also the two hanging yellows, as we can see here. Notice how extra pace in the stroke is now needed to screw back off the triangle for the final ball. Probably one of the cleverest ways to use the wooden rack in a trick shot is found in the triangle plant. As we watch again in slow motion, notice how the cue ball forces its way through the first two reds, sending them to the middle pockets before crashing into the base of the triangle and potting the remaining balls. Well worth another look. Taking the now familiar theme a touch further, Trapdoors achieves the seemingly impossible by potting frozen reds on both sides of the table. It works something like this. Even though the first triangle needs to be struck hard, only the slightest touch is required to free the last red. The triangle can be used as a makeshift runway for the balls, as we shall now see in four-way fork. The first two yellows shoot straight to the centres, leaving the remaining pair to split down the sides of the rack to each corner. Our final triangle shot steeplechase sees the black bouncing over two hurdles before reaching the pocket. In slow motion, we can watch as the 8-ball flies off its perch and over the barrier, skips through the racks and eventually down the hole. And again, in real time. Persuading the cue ball to act in an unpredictable manner forms the basis of some of the very best tricks. Most of the 12 shots you're about to see require a high degree of skill to execute successfully and are truly fascinating to watch. Prepare to be amazed by the incredible swerves and curves.